Let's take a trip down memory lane, shall we? It's Thanksgiving weekend in 1988, and your family is driving you crazy. You decide to escape to the movie theater and try and restore some of that holiday cheer. You consider seeing The Land Before Time again, but ultimately
Mm.
decide you really want to lean into the season, so you've got to see a Christmas movie. You're about to buy a ticket to Ernest Saves Christmas when you catch
Mm.
a glimpse of an interesting poster near the box office. Is that the dude from SNL? The weirdo from Caddyshack, right? What's up with his hair? Man, this guy's a goofball. But I mean, you liked him in Ghostbusters. You're just not quite sure if he can hold a movie as his own as the lead. Surely he won't eventually become a Hollywood icon and one of America's favorite fun uncles. Time will tell, I suppose. In the meantime, you buy your ticket and settle into your seat, ready to watch a modern retelling of the classic Charles Dickens tale, A Christmas Carol. That's right, this week we're talking about Scrooged, directed by Richard Donner, of all people, and starring none other than Bill fucking Murray.
Welcome to Three Films and a Podcast, the show where destiny brought together three friends to enhance each other's cinematic journey by watching three new movies in a series of themed rounds. There is no claim of ownership on any film footage used in this episode, as all film footage is owned in its entirety by the copyright holders. And just like every car in Too Fast, Too Furious, this podcast contains spoilers. Enjoy!
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Three Films and a Podcast. My name is Tyler Beck, coming to you from Cape Coral, Florida, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew Weiler in Pleasant Grove, Utah.
Hey, guys.
Hey! And Ben Lawhorn up in Salt Lake City, Utah.
He will become a Hollywood icon, and don't call me Shirley.
I will call you whatever I want. I am the host of this show. Speaking of the show, for those of you who are new here, welcome back, or welcome to the Movie Club. And for those of you returning, welcome back to the Movie Club. This turned from a long group text into this podcast, and we are very happy to have you here. Tell your friends. They can follow us at Three Films Pod on all the social platforms, and you can find merch and patron options, Patreon support options at threefilmspod.com. And before we go any further, I've got to introduce our very special guest, the creator of the theme music you just heard, none other than Greydon Benzmiller. Greydon, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people.
Give the people what they want.
Power
like
to
it.
people.
He follows orders, ladies and gentlemen. Greydon, welcome back. It's super good to have you here. This is your second time joining us. And yeah, for those that may have missed the Labyrinth episode that Greydon joined us on, go check that out. You can hear his Clubhouse answers. Check out our YouTube channel for those and get to know Greydon a little bit more. But in the meantime, Greydon, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourselves, where they can find you and all those sorts of things.
Thanks. It is a honor to be back with you gents.
It's an honor to have you back.
Pleasure's ours.
Indeed.
Pleasure's ours.
Yeah, it's great. I've been looking forward to my follow-up. I'm happy it happened for sooner than later. Yes, I created the theme song for the amazing podcast, the intro. I still listen to it a lot. And in my free
Me
time,
too.
I'd like to make more music. And if you want to hear more of it, you can look it up on Spotify or Apple Music under Umbels, Umbels. And that's about it.
That's
Nice.
not just about it. Don't sell yourself short. Ben and I have personally abused your creative, artistic, and musical abilities in a lot of our videos.
Yes.
Every time we needed something like, oh, we can use Greydon's music. He's got such good stuff. It was like our crutch. We'd always lean on you. So very
I'm
much
here for
appreciate
leaning.
it.
I am here for leaning.
Also, just a side note, if you go check out his Clubhouse answers, the whole reason he's on the pod tonight is because of his Clubhouse answers.
Yeah. This is like a first direct correlation to the Clubhouse I think that we've had here. We're talking about a Bill Murray movie, and that was Greydon's Desert Island actor. And I'm like, well, there is impossible to find a better guest than Greydon. And yeah, I'm very stoked to have you here.
It is a proper follow-up, and I'm happy to be here, guys.
Nice.
Absolutely. Well, Greydon, you've caught us in the middle of our Christmas round. Last week we discussed Christmas with the Cranks. And as you well know, this episode is all about Scrooged. I had seen this movie, or I'd never seen this movie, but it had been on my radar for quite some time. I just had never got around to watching it, despite my love for Bill Murray. For some reason, I just couldn't find a way to get interested in this movie. I'd never heard anyone talking about it. I'd never really read much about it. And there was nothing about it on face value besides the poster, Bill Murray being in the movie and on the poster. Nothing about it could get me interested. So, it seemed like a perfect, it was a perfect nomination for a Christmas round. It fits the theme of this podcast very well. I watched it on Sunday and I didn't really love it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. We'll definitely dig into that more. I think it got better as it went along, towards the second half of the movie. Yeah, I don't know how much I'll watch it going forward. I feel like what Bill was doing didn't really match the tone of what the director Richard Donner was trying to do. And I don't know. I don't feel like either of them were doing the same movie. I did think, and I do think the movie would work better if Bill played it more like he plays. Bill, by the way, Bill Murray and I are on a first name basis. I just want to
you Bill.
We're very close. Yeah, we're very close.
Bill,
Started with Mr. Murray. I was very polite, very cordial. But he's a nice guy. Please just call me Bill. So I
Bill wanted to come on, but we're like, we have Graydon. Maybe next time. Oh, sorry, Bill.
We bumped Bill for Graydon.
Got to do it.
But yeah, no, I was just like, I feel like this role would have been perfect for like what he did in St. Vincent, or even Lost in Translation or The Life Aquatic. Some of those more like older, jaded curmudgeon roles. But anyways, Graydon, I know you're a huge Bill Murray fan. Big fans of the pod know you're a Bill Murray fan because they've heard your Clubhouse segment. So yeah, what was your experience with this movie? What's your overall impression? And yeah, I want to hear all about it.
Sure. I remember seeing this movie in younger years, and I remember thinking that this movie was so not Bill's best, but kind of weird, and it incorporated a lot of like the late 80s feel, over the top drama. Seemed like a movie as they want to do sometimes with prolific actors, especially like SNL actors, just where they say, go for it. This is the script and you're the star. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
And it feels like that, and certainly isn't the top Christmas movie or Bill Murray movie. Rewatching it, I enjoyed a lot more of his mannerisms. He was a total ass until the last 5 minutes, and that's fun to watch him be like that cynical. The constant scowling, the insults, the backhanded comments is fun coming from him. The movie rushes into this resolve at the end. I feel a little too fast. We see the ghosts, and we're all familiar with the story and the experiences, but the end is quick, and it all comes to like a grinding halt. I will probably watch it again in 10 years.
I feel like that's an appropriate buffer. And yeah, I just feel like I agree with you 100%. It seemed like, I just don't know if maybe Bill misunderstood the assignment, or maybe Richard Donner just, because he had just done Lethal Weapon before he did this, if I remember right, looking through his IMDb.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, I don't know if he just wasn't sure how to make a comedy, or how much of a comedy they wanted it to be. I don't know. I really couldn't get a feel for it. Matt, what did you think about this?
So this is my second attempt watching it. I tried to watch it last year, and I can't even remember what happened. Fell asleep. But this is like essentially my first time seeing it. And I share a lot of the same feelings. There's something felt off. There's something about Bill Murray's performance. Like at the beginning, like I was kind of in, and then it kind of like, I almost feel like he was in that mode for too long. Like it didn't get believably better. Like he had those moments, but then he was just like back, and like, it was almost like until he turned, it was just like a hard switch. And then it was like just turning it all off. And so I felt like it was way too long like that. And it's funny that we mentioned his mannerisms. I felt like there was so much Bill Murray close-ups in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, so much. And I thought that was interesting. And I mean, yeah, he's at the top of his game with some of those movies that he was coming out with in the 80s. So it's like he's a star. Like give the star the camera time, but lot of frames with Bill Murray just taking up the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the late 80s like Christmas movie specifically vibe is just awesome. And it just for that alone, like take the Bill Murray out of it and just being in that world again is entertaining to me. And so while it's not my favorite Bill Murray movie, I was glad that I watched it.
Yeah, I think like for me, I don't know. I know he's like a very capable director, but I think like Richard Donner kind of seems like the issue, I guess, here. Like, 'cause I liked it. I had a good time. I loved Bill Murray's performance in large part because of all the like improv stuff he did, and maybe had to do because of the script and stuff like that. But I don't know, like it's crazy to say this about the guy who did Goonies, who did the Lethal Weapons, like who has done funny movies, but he's also done like Superman and like had like director's cut issues before and stuff like that. So, and I mean, I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of where this fell short. I liked the movie that I felt like Bill Murray signed up for, like that he was trying to get done. I do. I think he was funny. Like, I know he was like, I agree with your point, Tyler, that like maybe this works better in his like later years, but keeping in mind that he's like essentially Ebenezer Scrooge, like he is supposed to be like kind of the curmudgeon-y funny dude. And I think he did a pretty good job with that. I like that they turned it into basically just like this business bigwig who's like focused on that kind of stuff. Like less about like, the other Ebenezer's like, oh, money, money, money. He's just like, oh, I just want like the promotion. I want like whatever. Like he's just kind of got a big head basically. But I had a good time with it. My memory was that I saw this in theaters. I don't know if that's true or not, because I would have been 5, but I just remember and specifically seeing like on the TV set. I think it must have been like the last, big monologue kind of thing, because it's that scene that was playing in my head every time I would think about Scrooge. And I don't know if I had watched it since then. So I had fun with it. I almost wish he could get a redo with a director that was more in line to make a funny Christmas Carol movie, because like we've seen funny ones like Muppets and stuff like that. You can do it. And if you have Bill Murray kind of in his prime in the 80s, like it's hard. But I mean, Richard Donner was in his prime. He was doing Lethal Weapon. I think it just didn't mesh as well as it probably should have.
Yeah, I feel like it was just the wrong Bill. It seemed like they were like, hey, go in there and be like just go in there and be Venkman like on coke. What I mean? Like be the goofy asshole, but just like supercharged version of it. And I just feel like a little bit more of the subtlety and and a subdued, cynical, silly performance like he does in something like Rushmore or like The Life Aquatic or something just would have been a little bit better for it. Maybe not quite as cold and callous as he is in St. Vincent, but that's what I mean? Just something a little more subtle. He was just like over the top wacky. And I just like, I couldn't buy it. I just was like, it seemed like it, I don't know. It just didn't, the character just didn't work for me. But I think you're right, Ben. I think it was all about Richard Donner. I don't know that he was able to communicate to Bill, or maybe he just couldn't wrangle Bill. Maybe Bill was just going to be Bill. I don't know.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's like Belushi on Blues Brothers, where it's just like, I hope he shows up, like who knows for sure.
Because, speaking about Coke binges, this was like the height of it for Bill. We talked about it once.
And for America.
After we got on first name basis. Yeah. So like you mentioned, Ben, this is a retelling of the Christmas Carol. But beyond that, I was curious if there was anything else you guys noticed in the movie that sort of jumped out to you that taught, that you see in other movies. Matt likes to call this the "What's in the Soup" segment. So as you were watching this, what were some scenes or things, tropes or whatever that you picked up that you've seen other places? Graydon, I'll start with you.
There's this whole, what I noticed is there's this whole movie and media production behind the scenes aspect. that is used a
Yeah.
lot from the point of the screenwriter or the directing behind the scenes. Besides the Christmas Carol, that like spoke the most to me because that's a big part of the movie, right? I'm trying to think of others that it compares to. I know there's so many, but I just can't think of ones that come to my mind beforehand. I think of like The Disaster Artist or Birdman and just
Mm.
this whole
Oh
behind
yeah,
the
yeah. Birdman's
scenes.
a good one.
This is the production. And the beginning reminded me, also there's some opening scenes and it reminded me of Weird Al's song, The Night Santa Went Crazy. That
Okay.
because it
Yeah.
really takes you off on this other thing. You're like, oh, is this Santa Claus and elves? And yeah, that might be like a little too deep of a connection to a Weird Al song, but it takes you off guard. But then you realize quickly this is all about TV, and that's who he is, and that's what he's doing, and that's kind of the other vibe I get from this movie.
Yeah.
No,
It's a good
I agree
pull.
with that. Well, and like, I mean, you mentioned Weird Al, and it can't be coincidence with the way this movie went that a year later UHF comes out, right?
Mm.
There's like, even that has like the behind the scenes type stuff, and like when Bill Murray's in that like that dog costume, that's very much like a setting from like the total
Michael
UHF
Richards,
thing.
Michael
Yeah.
Richards, yeah, totally.
Exactly. And so I think, I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe Weird Al and Richard Donner, were collaborating, and maybe Weird Al saw this and like, I've got to make this a song.
I gotta do it.
He was sitting in the theater with his accordion, and
What am I gonna do? I think along with that, the UHF stuff is just like how crazy the 80s got, I guess, with comedies. And Bill Murray was kind of, again, we talked about it, but kind of in the middle of everything. He'd already done Caddyshack on the first Ghostbusters, but this got followed up by Ghostbusters 2 and What About Bob, Groundhog Day. Like he went on a real tear there for a while. And also after Ghostbusters, before this, one of my favorite roles of his in Little Shop of Horrors. He's great in that. And I guess like when I was watching this, it kind of felt like maybe out of necessity from what, we've read about the scripts and stuff like that. But I did enjoy seeing kind of the off the cuff Bill Murray, who I think we see a little bit in the Wes Anderson stuff, although that feels like very structured, but more specifically kind of like in Caddyshack and in Ghostbusters, where some of these guys, like we were talking about Richard Donner, and I was like, well, who would have directed it better? And nowadays I'd almost put like early Adam McKay, because he would do that with like Step Brothers and stuff, where it's just like, let's just keep rolling. Let's shout stuff out. Let's let Will and John C. Reilly just like throw stuff out. We'll find something. I think that's like the kind of director Bill needed for this, and so it was good to see him, I guess, like kind of improving and just kind of coming up with stuff off the top of his head. But it drew me to the other directors or the other roles that let him do that. And it just felt like this kind of got stifled, which was a bummer. But that's kind of what I saw in here.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And it's like, it definitely speaks to the trust that you would have to have in Bill Murray or anyone at this time, because film's so expensive at the time that this was made. So it's like, you could see why the director would want them to stick to the script, but it's like, it's Bill fucking Murray, man. Like you've got to, you've got the bullet, pull the trigger, right? Like
exactly.
let the man do his thing. The thing that jumped out at me was the fake trailers at the beginning. It was like immediate parallels to Tropic Thunder. I did the Leo meme. I was like, hey, that's Tropic Thunder, like, I don't know if that's where they got that whole bit, but I definitely saw that. And the ghosts inside the chest cavity of the Ghost of Future, whatever, the
Ghost of
Ghost of Christmas Future. Yeah. Anyways, when he pulled that out, I got like major Labyrinth vibes. So nice tie into the other Greydon appearance here. But yeah, I was just like, oh man, that's so cool. It really reminded me, especially for whatever reason, of like the hands hallway scene.
Yes.
Just like
yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was super cool. So, I don't know that any of us loved this movie that much. And I'm wondering, is this the least well-rated movie in our history, our official history. I know Larry Crown took some hits, but
Rules of Attraction was
Yeah, are you talking about
You know,
within the
could've-
pod here?
yeah,
Or
with ever since Do the Right Thing, since the official
Mm.
first episode of the pod, I think we talked about Larry Crown on a little pod, but
Yeah.
I think this is the first movie that, like, I don't know. I think this is the one that we liked the least. But anyways, the point of this podcast isn't to talk people out of watching movies. We want everyone to explore things because, if you're listening or watching to this podcast, you might like it better than we do. And like, I think all of us agree it gets better as it goes along. So, give it a shot. But let's do the elevator pitch. So what scene, Greydon, would you show to someone to convince them to watch this movie?
Being completely honest, when he goes to the Ghost of Christmas Past and he's showing him his younger self, there's two things that I laughed at a lot. Him going to the mid memory of him set at the Christmas party with his wild, half bald, half perm hair. It's like half mullet. Like when I first saw that, I've not seen Bill Murray like that. And I was just like, wow, I will just watch him do anything in this haircut.
Yeah.
He shows him his first memory and the one right before that, and he says that he doesn't care when he's like a very young child in the 50s. And he doesn't care to see his mother, and he doesn't care. And the ghost, who looks like the ghost of Benicio del Toro, says that Attila of the Hun said the same thing, and Niagara Falls, baby. And then you watch Bill Murray have to do a fake cry, but real tears presumably come out, and it's just really funny watching him cry because he's always so indifferent to the different events in his movies. He's lovable, funny guy, bit of a pain. But he's kind of the opposite now. Still a pain, but just an absolute dick to everybody.
Yes.
I get it. You're taking me back in time to show me my mother and father, and I'm supposed to get all goosey and blubbery. Well, forget it, pal. You get the wrong guy.
That's exactly what Attila the Hun said. But when he saw his mother, Niagara Falls.
Yeah. I mean, mine's the same, just to tag on to that, also from Ghost of Christmas Past. And it is like when he's a little kid at the house. More specifically, that the line the dad says really got me, but I think all of that would be a good scene to show somebody. But when he's asking for help or whatever it was, why people can't work, he's everyone's my back hurts, my legs ache, I'm only 4, I just love his delivery on that. He expects his son to have a job. He's I thought you were gonna get me a train. He's you can get a train when you get a job and you can buy it yourself. It's I'm only 4.
All day long, I listen to people give excuses why they can't work. My back hurts, my legs ache. I'm only 4.
But I like that a lot. I like that exchange, and that that his dad, I think in that, is played by one of Bill Murray's brothers. I think all 3 of them are in this movie.
Is that who
so that
it
was
is?
kind of cool too. Because I was oh yeah, this could definitely be Bill Murray's dad. But yeah, so that'd be my pick. I like that.
That same actor played Clark Griswold's boss in Christmas Vacation.
That's the voice. I knew the voice. Okay.
Yeah. I can't remember. I think it might be Brian Murray.
Brian Doyle Murray. Yeah.
Doyle Murray. And also another good joke ties into his character when they were talking about in the flashback scene is when they're asking if he can open presents. Bill's asking if he can open presents. And she's like, "Didn't your family open presents on Christmas Eve?" And he's like, "Well, if it was going to spoil, we did." And it's just such a quick little joke. And there were little nuggets like that peppered throughout this movie. But Matt, what scene would you show someone?
Oh man. So the scene when his old boss visits him as a mummified zombie.
Oh yeah.
And when he pushes him through the glass and is holding him out the building.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you just pause that scene, that's one of the most insane things I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
Let alone a Bill Murray movie. He's dangling from outside the window and a zombie's holding him. It's what movie is this?
I'm glad you mentioned that because
I was shocked.
That's another thing. Like, it reminded me of Candyman. I just pictured being across the
Oh yeah.
canyon of buildings there, like in a
Yep.
different building across the street, and seeing that happen from across the street. You know, like I don't know. That was a fun little parallel. But yeah, you're right, Matt. Like I don't think I've seen that anywhere else, which is surprising because it's like a kind of a cool little like
It is.
supernatural scare. You know,
Like for the time, for the special effects, I think they did a cool job pushing him through. And then when they cut, they've obviously like put a hole in the window and like he's like sticking his arm through there. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool trick. I like this.
a lot of the makeup, a lot of like the costumes and whatnot were really cool in this. And actually, I saw that it was nominated for an Academy Award for best
Hmm.
makeup and special effects.
Hmm.
I don't know if it won, but it was nominated. Um, I would show the scene directly after he sees the ghost of Christmas Present, when he kind of stumbles back on set and he says, "All right, everyone, we're gonna get this done. I feel real weird about this," and like
Yeah.
just that line floored me. To me, it was the funniest part of the whole movie. And then he does, stumbles into the elevator, and you see Ghost of Christmas Future. Because I think if someone doesn't know about this movie, you can show them that, and they'll be like, "Oh, they're doing the Christmas Carol thing, and it's Bill Murray, and it's not too spoilery. It gives away like the funniest moment of the movie to me, but I think that's probably the way I'd have to go."
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this for the pod or not, because I frankly didn't really love any of the characters in this movie outside of Bill. But there's enough characters in here, and I think there's enough discussion to be had about who takes the Apollonia Award here. Who's the best supporting actor in this movie? Greydon, let's start with you.
Whether I would actually give them the award for best supporting actor, someone who spoke out to me a lot and took me off guard after rewatching it was Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah.
Simply because it just really threw me off guard, honestly. And he had a huge role. You only ever hear his voice, or often hear his voice in movies where he's playing a character, a cartoon, and to put the voice to the face and have him be from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie, where he has the big role and he comes back crazy with the shotgun. It was a big role. And it kind of tied into the whole real Scrooge factor, that he was the dick. He was Scrooge. He kicked him out, fired him on Christmas Eve. He comes back, and I don't know. I think he did a good job for as well of a job Bobcat can do.
For sure.
But it was great.
In my cold open, I talked about how we weren't sure at the time if Bill Murray could hold a leading role on his own, because that was a concern they had. This was, I think, the first movie that he was like the sole lead role, for the movie. Bobcat kind of had a similar trajectory. Like, he was sort of this weird one-off guy, but he's found quite the career for himself as a director. So
Yeah.
we've got two guys that are like kind of a little bit specific and niche. Bobcat's very specific with that voice and his delivery and his look. It's cool to see him play like have like a normal look in this movie.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great pick. Matt, who would you choose here?
Oh, I got to go with the cab driver. He's actually I can't remember his name. David Johansen, I think, from the New York Dolls. I mentioned this. There's a quality in some of these like 80s movies that we don't get anymore, just because like we've got the high definition, we've got all these other things that we do in our movies now. But like I mentioned this in Blues Brothers, like that old car pulls up and you can like smell the gas.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
It's just like there's something about it. And the same with the cab driver. Like I feel like that anytime he's in the scene or in the cab, like you can smell the stale cigar smoke.
Cigar, for sure.
The aesthetic is just so good.
Terrible.
It's so complete, and we don't get that too much anymore. And just such a great character. Like, the Niagara Falls line. It's good stuff.
There's just a layer of film on all those windows. There is. You just like scrape off the smoke that's just built up on there. It was such a gnarly cab. My Apollonia is going to go to I'm going to give it to my Christmas Carol Kane because I thought she
Hey.
was awesome as the ghost of Christmas Present. I think for everybody that's in this movie, she is the person that matches up to Bill's energy the most throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is why
Yeah.
I think I liked their scenes together so much, because she's the one that's really kind of throwing him for a loop, you know, like the dead old boss. It's like, all right, well, this is weird, you know, and then like the big, like, you know, Ghost of Christmas Future is like scary, but the Carol Kane Christmas Present, I think, was just really kind of like perplexing, you know. He was just perplexed, I guess, like while he was with her, and she was just giving him a run for his money, and she's hilarious, and her energy and her attitude, I loved it so much. She was just like, I was glad to see her in here. I forgot that she was in it. I'm like, oh, this is like perfect casting because she was a ton of fun. So that's who I'd give my Apollonia to, in large part because I just feel like she's the one that matched Bill the best throughout this whole movie.
Yeah. It's funny, like she was sort of the embodiment of that Family Guy meme. Like you hit the shin on the fire hydrant and it just could, like, what I mean is her, like, just her giggle and like her whole vibe. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is silly. And then I hated it. And then it just kind of like kept growing on me. And then by
Yeah.
the time it was done, I liked it because it just was like, it was a lot. And I agree. It seemed like her and Bill were making the same movie and no one else was making the movie they were
For
making.
sure.
So
Yeah.
I agree with
Yeah.
that for sure. I'm gonna give it to Alfre
Woodard.
She plays Alfre Woodard. Yeah, she plays
Yeah.
Grace. It was, in all honesty, it was like a sort of a tie between her and Karen Allen for me. I think it's just because obviously we're not supposed to like Bill's character. There's really no one in the movie that you can like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, I mean, I guess that's not true, but as far as people we see a lot, you know, it's tough to be on board with the way Bill's acting, both as a character and both as the character and as like how we've discussed, he's like seems to be working in opposition to like the rest of the movie. Like he's on a different track. So just like I like watching him at all times, but I just wish that he was making the same movie as everyone else. But having said that, it was fun to have someone like Grace or Claire to like ground you a little bit and have a little bit
Yeah.
of heart. You know what I mean? And I like that she, you know, I don't like the subservient nature of her character and some of like the unfortunate racial undertones of that character. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
only person of color is his secretary. But I do like that she, like, you know, she had some moxie, she had some spirit, and she's, you know, she let him know he was being an asshole in the ways that she could. So
And it
I
felt
don't know.
like, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, I'm all done there.
I felt like they almost, you know, the traditional Christmas Carol story with Cratchit, is it Bob Cratchit or whatever, he was employee. Like it felt like that got split between Bobcat and
Mhm.
Alfre Woodard
Yeah.
here, because like
Totally.
I kept expecting to go see Bobcat's family and he's like, oh, I got
Mhm.
fired, I'm sorry, like all that kind of stuff. But we
Yeah.
just see him basically like become a drunk and like homeless living on the streets. But we go see Alfre Woodard's family and like how she's, you know, coping with everything that's going on. So I thought that was an interesting choice to like kind of split it up between two people. I think it worked. I don't know for sure. I guess I like Bobcat, so I'm up for whatever he's going to be doing. But Alfre Woodard was great. I also, because you mentioned her, I made a note that like it's amazing how like the first thing you see somebody or something in is kind of how you remember that person. Because for me, Karen Allen is just the mom from Sandlot.
I want you to get out into the fresh air and make some friends. Run around, scrape your knees, get dirty. Climb trees, hop fences, get into trouble, for crying out loud.
Like that's who she is always, you know?
Oh.
And I was like, oh yeah, it's the mom from Sandlot. But it's like, she's been in like Animal House. She was Marion in like Indiana Jones. Like she's in like all these other
that's
big movies.
right.
Like, but for me, I'm just like, oh, it's the mom from
yeah.
Sandlot. Cool. You know, but that's the first thing I remember her from. Like, I know I saw Indiana Jones like in my youth, you know, that was one of the trilogies I thought about doing because I don't remember any of it. It's like, oh yeah, she's in that. But to me, she's just like, she's the one, you know, telling him to go out and get into a little trouble. It's like, man, it's just so interesting what you associate with people. It's kind of like I think for a lot of us, the Gene Wilder effect where he's Willy Wonka, but then you go, watch like Stir Crazy or, Speaking of Evil, Hear No Evil, that kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
oh, he used to make or Blazing Saddles. Like he did a lot of like risque comedy stuff. Like he wasn't just Willy Wonka, but it's like, that's who he's always going to be. Because that was the first thing I remember him as. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I also feel like she was sort of she was utilized in a weird way in this movie. It felt like there were parts of the movie where she was just like gone and like not even a thought. Like no one was even thinking about it. And then like all of a sudden you see her again. It's like, oh yeah, Bill's girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. She was gone a lot. I think she was used very poorly, but I was glad to see her. That's another thing where I'm like, did it get lost in the script, or was this like a Richard Donner's like, I don't want to tell that story that much, or what's happening here? I don't know, but it was good to see her. I just wish we got more of her.
Ben, you touched on something I think is a good topic to talk about Bill Murray. A little peek behind the curtain here for the listeners and viewers. We have a document we go off of that sort of outlines the episode. And I didn't put this in there, but I want to talk about it because Bill Murray is a person that I feel like everyone saw for the first time in a different movie. So I want to know, Greydon, when you see Bill Murray or when you hear Bill Murray, what's the movie you think of?
I default to the Wes Anderson movies. I really do. Royal Tenenbaums, especially where he kind of plays a smaller character, or I mean, what Wes Anderson movie is he not in, honestly? He just is tied so closely with nearly everything he's done, and those always just come to mind, movie-wise at least.
Yeah.
For sure. Benjamin, what do you think of?
I mean, if I really sit back and think about it, like the first thing I probably saw him in theaters was a movie called Larger Than Life. I don't know if you guys had seen that. Yeah, exactly. Like the tagline on IMDb says, a motivational speaker discovers that the inheritance his father left for him is in the form of an elephant. And he has to I think walk across the country with it or something. I don't remember exactly, but I'm like, I feel like it's the first thing I saw him in. So that's always what hops into my mind. It's like, did I dream that movie? Like, this is the first time I'm really looking it up. Cause I remember Bill Murray and an elephant. Cause I'm sure I saw Ghostbusters, but that wasn't a thing in my youth where I was like, oh, I love this. I don't even remember when I saw it, and all of his comedy before that, like Caddyshack and Stripes and all that. I'm like, I would have been too young to see that. So
yeah,
I really think it's this fucking elephant movie was the first thing that I saw him in. But now when I think about it, obviously Wes Anderson, but really so much of that early SNL stuff is probably how I would choose to remember him. I think some of that stuff that he did was, I don't know, it set the tone for SNL. So yeah, that's probably what I would go with, that and the elephant movie.
Yeah. I'll allow it.
Thank you.
I feel like early on in my, I guess, movie viewing experience in my life, the two movies that I saw the most with Bill Murray in them were The Man Who Knew Too Little and Kingpin. I love both those movies. And so I probably think of him more as the guy in The Man Who Knew Too Little. But I mean, what about Bob was around there too? So that's kind of the character that I think about with Bill Murray. And obviously he's aged great and sort of aged into the Wes Anderson roles, which is great to see. It's like a completely different book, but it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Ern McCracken is the closest approximation to the character he's playing in this movie. Just that wild, over the top asshole energy. I feel like, although for whatever reason, Bill's character in Scrooged is a little more lovable than Ern McCracken, even though there's still the same wild asshole. But I feel like that's a pretty good parallel. I honestly think of Zombieland first. It's not the movie that I've seen the most of his. It's not even my favorite movie with Bill Murray in it. I do love that movie, but I put it in my intro. It's the whole, because I feel like if I were to see Bill Murray, whether it be a zombie apocalypse or not, even if it's just in a pandemic, we'll take just a pandemic here. I would have that same reaction. Like, it's Bill fucking Murray. You know what I mean? So I think just because it's so close to what my actual reaction would be, that's what I think of. I can't remember the first movie I saw of his. I was a huge fan of Ghostbusters, but I always watched the cartoons. I don't think my parents or
Yeah.
grandparents would. I'm sure they let me watch it, but I don't really remember it. It didn't stick as a kid. I just liked the cartoons. Um, but yeah, definitely Life Aquatic specifically with regards to the Wes Anderson movies. I love that movie. We'll probably talk about that later. Yeah, no, that was a fun little exercise. I'm glad that you brought that up, Ben. So like I mentioned, I knew nothing about this movie. All I ever knew about it was that I saw the cover. I had seen the wild hair and the Scrooge and the skeleton arm. It's a pretty cool cover, and it's like the cover itself is compelling enough to like be interesting, but regardless, I never watched the movie.
Yeah.
So after watching it and kind of like, I just knew there was going to be some strange trivia, or there was going to be things to talk about with regards to trivia for this movie. Because how do you have a movie with Bill Murray at like sort of like at the beginning of his ascension, like right when he's starting to find his stride? He's like the main character. It's a Christmas movie. It's a comedy. It just seemed like this would be a bigger movie. So I was super curious to dig into some of the trivia, and I'm wondering if you guys found anything in your research about this movie that you thought was interesting. Graydon, we'll start with you.
Yeah. Firstly, I didn't realize upon looking it up how much of this was they gave him a free reign, right? Like I kind of talked about it, just like you're the star, do your thing. You're good at improv, you're in SNL, and so Bill ad-libbed a lot of it. There's a scene where Frank, or Bill, is trying to get the audience in the movie theater to participate, and that was totally ad-libbed. Also, there's a funny scene when he is first visited by the initial ghost, Lou, who tells him that he's gonna be visited by more ghosts. And he's at lunch with some uppity exec.
Super fancy restaurant place.
Super fancy restaurant, super fancy, and he like basically starts hallucinating or actually seeing the ghosts, and a waiter catches on fire when he's just making normal food. And when Frank throws water on the waiter, he closes it with a line. He says, "I'm sorry, I thought you were Richard Pryor." And he walks out. And this is a crazy reference back to the good old SNL days. Where apparently Richard Pryor was freebasing drugs and accidentally set himself on fire, and he ran down the street on fire in Los Angeles. Whether Bill was there, I don't know, but it's kind of a dig. It's a
huge
kind of
dig
at Richard Pryor. Like,
it's a tough one.
I never got that. I never got that until I was just looking it up. Why did he call him that? I'm like, oh shit. Okay.
So I'm gonna plug a guy. He needs a lot of help. Let's shout his podcast out. Listeners, go check him out. He's got a struggling pod. It's called WTF with Mark Maron. Ever heard of it? So he just interviewed Richard Pryor's wife, well, one of his wives, who was his wife at the time that happened, and she was in the house, and I won't recount her story for her, but Graydon, you should check that out, and I would recommend anyone who's a fan of movies and comedy and all that sort of history, check it out. It's a pretty wild story. I won't touch on it any more than that because I feel like she should be the one that tells you that story. But yeah, it's a wild, and I actually was like kind of taken back by that joke here. I know when this came out was pretty close to the time that happened, and it was pretty fresh in everyone's mind, and it was like a big deal. And I feel like the level of insensitivity was congruent to the times. You know what I mean? But I was just like, I was like, it was kind of a pearl clutching moment. I was like, oh, like you can't say that. That was intense, Bill.
Throw everyone under the bus.
Yeah, definitely got a reaction out of me. Ben, what did you dig up here?
I mean, honestly, I made a note about that same thing because I guess I took it as like, I didn't take it in a bad way when you made the Richard Pryor joke. I just thought it was a reference to like one of his most famous stand-up routines from Live at the Sunset Strip, where he talks about it.
I want to say y'all gave me a lot of love when I was not feeling well, and y'all really, I appreciate it. Also, y'all did some, applaud yourself. Also, y'all did some nasty ass jokes on my ass too. Oh yeah, y'all didn't think I saw some of these motherfuckers. Since you love me so much. I remember this one, it strike the match like this. It's like, what's that? Richard Pryor running down the street.
I saw it as like kind of a nod thing, but not necessarily like a dig.
Okay.
But either way, like, I thought it was just passing enough. Just like you said, like, oh, if it would spoil, like, there's a lot of like quick jokes in here. Same, like they talk about like Kojak in there, and Richard Donner had like directed episodes. So I think there's plenty of this stuff where like almost like, you know, the fourth wall kind of thing. It was like, oh, let's make a meta joke here that some people might get. I also we've been talking about SNL so much. I think this is the first thing I've ever actually seen Robert Goulet in. I don't think I ever knew what it was. And now seeing this and then like thinking about everything from Will Ferrell, I was like, oh my God, that's like spot on. Like, I had no idea. Like, I assumed obviously it was like a great impression. Like, I don't know who Robert Goulet is, but now seeing that, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect.
I know one thing we can agree on. When a professional gets his mitts on a song, that's when it really takes off. Da da dee da da ba da ba do.
It was so good. So I love that. But my trivia thing that I don't know, like I kind of went back and forth on whether or not I would have wanted it, but I guess Matt's Apollonia winner, the cab driver, was originally going to be Sam Kinison, which I think my initial reaction was like, oh fuck yeah, that'd be so cool. But then I'm like, man, Sam Kinison and Bobcat Goldthwait,
that's a
and
lot.
Bill Murray in
And
the
Bill
same
Murray
movie. That's just
over
like,
the top.
yeah, like that's a lot. Like, I don't know if it would work that well. I want to see Sam Kinison as the Ghost of Christmas Past in some movie. It may have just been too much in this one,
Not
but
this
like
one.
my initial reaction was like, oh my God, that would have been so good. It was like, that also probably just would have been so much. Like, to have when you make a movie and Bobcat's like the calm one, the three, it's like, all right, this is a fucking crazy movie. So I did like that he was he was in the running for the role, but yeah, he didn't get in. I think overall it's probably for the better, but I still want it.
Well, speaking of casting sliding doors, apparently Bill Murray turned down the lead role of Rain Man, as well as the lead role in Big and Cocktail to make this movie.
Crazy.
I'll be honest, I'm glad that he did. I don't know that any of those movies are better with Bill Murray. I've never seen Cocktail, but
yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, are any of those better? Like Tom, I mean, if he's taking the Tom Cruise role, like a lot of it's about like how hot he is, you know, as a bartender. I'm like, I don't picture that with Bill Murray. Like maybe he's playing the older guy. I forget who that is.
With that sort of permed mullet.
That's true. Yeah, if he had rocked
he
that,
does
for
have
sure.
that sparkle in his eyes that's just intoxicating.
It's crazy. It's two Tom Cruise movies. Tom Cruise had a big 88 with Rain Man and Cocktail. It's nuts.
Yeah.
Huh. That's cool.
That would have been weird. 2 movies stolen from Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And, you know, having talked about the disconnect in what we feel like Richard Donner versus Bill Murray was doing, apparently there was a pretty heavy disconnect on set as well. They didn't enjoy working together, the two of them. I guess Roger Ebert, who said this is the worst film adaptation of A Christmas Carol he had ever seen. Apparently he talked to Bill about that and, you know, about any disagreements Bill Murray may have had with Richard Donner. And Bill said, only a few, every single minute of the day. That could have been a really, really great movie. The script was so good, and there's maybe one take in the final cut of the movie that's mine. We made it so fast, and it was like he was doing the movie live. He kept telling me to do things louder, 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 louder. I think he was deaf. And like that totally reads to me because Bill is like, you can actually kind of see that. Like, I don't know that Bill Murray did much to stop him. I think he probably enjoyed being able to, you know, really let loose, but you can definitely see it. So it tracks to me that there's some disagreements between director and actor there. There's a lot of good trivia for this movie. It's a fun one to dig into the IMDb section for those curious. So I feel like this is a perfect movie. This is like the perfect movie for the Adam Driver drive-in double
Matt, did you
feature.
give yours?
Oh wait, well
I didn't really have one.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry.
No, we're good.
My bad.
So I skipped Matt. I was gonna try and make a joke, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. I feel bad. I need to be visited by a ghost and learn to appreciate Matt.
Just
more.
be like
There
Bill,
you go.
yell more and more and more and more.
Yeah. What
Sorry, I fucked up your flow. I was just like,
No. It's fine. I screwed it up. I skipped over 33% of this podcast.
You Scrooged it up.
You Scrooged it up.
You Scrooged us.
All right. Thanks for listening. See you all later.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
We're not going to top that.
Well, yeah, let's move into the drive-in double feature brought to us by our good friend Adam Driver. I feel like, if you have to watch this movie, it might be a good idea to pair it with something else to try and get the taste out of your mouth. So, Greydon, what are you going to pair this movie with?
I want to do an Adam Driver impression, but
Please.
I think
I want you to do an Adam Driver impression.
Tell us your movie is Adam Driver.
But this is very off the cuff. If I had to, I would be happy to see this movie with Jingle All the Way, followed up by Scrooge. God damn it. That would be great. That would be great.
I love it.
Bravo.
Spot on.
That was
Bravo.
perfect.
By
I'm glad
far
we
the
didn't wrap
best
up the
Adam
podcast.
Driver impression that we've had
Oh, yeah.
on the podcast. And yes,
Without a
well
doubt.
worth not ending. I'm not going to lie. I was very taken out of my game there. I felt so bad skipping over Matt, but Greydon just revived me.
We're back. We're back.
I've once again forgotten all about Matt. I'm all about Greydon. That's not true. Matt, what would you pair this with?
Oh man. I put in my Letterboxd review that this sort of felt like the Spirit prequel to A Very Murray Christmas, with him being
Something
up
I've
in the
never
studio, inviting guests on, especially like that end scene where he's like just kind of like talking with everybody. Felt very much like this could segue into that. Only in A Very Murray Christmas, he's Bill Murray and not Dick Cross.
He's more of the lovable
That was another thing I
uncle.
wanted to point out. So, I mean, right now it's kind of trendy to have like a shirt that has a word and a definition with it. I thought it was interesting that his closet had like cross, something that you're nailed to. Like
yeah.
in his closet. It's like, oh,
So
that's kind of
pre-hot
ahead of its
topic.
time.
I was wondering about that. I was like, what? So that was in his office, right? Like,
Yeah.
was that in his office or was it his apartment? I thought it was like at the executive office, and I'm like,
It was, yeah,
what
because his brother was in
What
there.
statement is that trying to make? You know what I mean? I was like, that's a very specific choice to put on the walls. I guess it's just, if you're the one at the top calling the shots, like you're the one that's going to get nailed to the cross. I guess I don't know. I just thought it was like it was trying to say something, but much like the rest of this movie, I couldn't figure out what it was trying to say. What would you pair this with, Ben?
So I had on here, I'm going to switch up the order because this is probably a risky move here, but I'm going to do back-to-back Christmas Carol movies. I initially wanted... I know. It's like, don't talk politics, don't talk religion, and do not play back-to-back Christmas Carol movies. I understand. But I'm breaking the rules here. I initially was going to have the Muppets Christmas Carol first because I was like, oh, kids can watch it first and blah, blah, blah. But as the Michael Jordan meme says, fuck them kids. I'm playing Muppets Christmas Carol second. We're going to watch Scrooged first. And then we're going to watch like a really, really good. I mean, we watched it last year for a watch party. And it's so good. Like it's such a wonderful adaptation. Probably my favorite, like one of the best ones. I think overall, I mean, I don't know. We're all kind of like whatever on this movie. I think overall I might be the most positive on it. Like I had a good time with it. But still like nothing's going to top them up at Christmas Carol. So I'd show Scrooged first and then let's like cleanse the palate, like Tyler said, and let's watch them up at Christmas Carol.
Nice.
Yeah. A man after my own heart. And Matt had the same strategy, and I'm going to follow suit. I'm going to get Scrooged out of the way. People can show up late. They can catch the second half of the movie. It's the only half worth watching. Maybe show up when he meets the ghost of Christmas past. That's when it starts to get fun, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get that out of the way, and it's all fine. That's great. That's good. And then we can move on to Elf, which I thought had a lot of fun parallels, like a captain of industry trying to work through Christmas and finding the spirit again. Obviously, I can't remember the guy. I can't remember Bob Newhart's the narrator. I can't remember
James Caan.
James Caan.
Yeah, James Caan.
The father of Scott Caan from Ocean's 11.
That's right.
That's what he's known for. Not the Godfather, nothing like that. He's just known as Scott Caan's dad.
Congrats, you did it. Yeah, I mean, obviously he wasn't the main character of Elf, but there was enough similarities there, and I don't know, I just love Elf. So let's get Scrooged out of the way and let's hang out with Will Ferrell, who understood the assignment, an elf, and was perfectly casted and placed into the world of Elf.
For sure.
Something I cannot say about Bill Murray and Scrooged. But speaking of Bill Murray, we love him. There's so many great Bill Murray movies, and I can't believe we haven't had an opportunity to do this yet. So let's do it. Let's head to our Rushmore Mountain.
These are OR scrubs. Oh, are they?
Let's fill out our Rushmore Mountain for Bill Murray. And Greydon, Bill's all of our guys, but he's your desert island. You get to go first. Tell us, what are your 4 desert island movies?
First and foremost, Rushmore.
Or Rushmore. Yeah, Rushmore movies. Yeah,
Rushmore for Rushmore. Rushmore is one of the first movies I randomly saw Bill in on TV, on a little old crap TV on TV. And I immediately was just drawn to him. And the performance, and I just knew something was weird. That was the first Wes Anderson movie, and of course now he's been in all of them. But he just has such a great role. I love him in Space Jam because he has a pretty decent role in there. Yeah, it's very shadowed by the Looney Tunes and Michael Jordan, but Bill's parts are really.
He's got my favorite line. Larry's clear.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, both of those I love them. What about Bob? Every time I revisit that one, I'm just like, yes, I'm happy I put this on.
I'm sailing! I'm sailing! I'm sailing!
Maybe as a strange one that I enjoyed watching was Where the Buffalo Roam, where he's Hunter S. Thompson. And he doesn't do a great job. I'll be honest, not trying to throw too much praise to J. Depp because he's got plenty of it. But Bill Murray as Hunter S. Thompson is very entertaining, and it's a good one.
Awesome.
That's interesting. I didn't know that he did that. So Bill Murray played Hunter S. Thompson in a movie with Johnny Depp, right?
It's not. It's
who
not.
Then went.
Oh wait, I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
Well, no. So, but is that true? So he played it in a movie. He played Hunter S. Thompson in a movie alongside Johnny Depp. Is that what?
No, it precedes Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying he played a movie. He played with Johnny Depp, who then went on to play Hunter S. Thompson. Okay,
both playing Hunter S. Thompson. Fear and Loathing versus Where the Buffalo Roam, which is I think it's the story of the 1972 him following Nixon, but just a lot of him just drinking whiskey, trying to be Hunter S. Thompson, just being wild as fuck on screen.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
cool.
pretty entertaining.
I love it. Matthew, fill out your Rushmore for me, please. I won't skip you this time.
All right. Are you sure it's my turn, Tyler? I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you're gonna pick me because
Ben, let's hear your Rushmore, Ben.
All right, so my pick.
Oh, it's my turn. Oh, I get a turn this
suppose.
time. I gotta go Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
What about Bob? Man Who Knew Too Much. Kingpin. Kingpin kills me, man. He's so funny in Kingpin.
Big Earn. His hair in that movie is just
it's out of control.
So if you're listening or watching, you don't know this, but Matt, who is an invaluable member of this team and who I love dearly, is putting together some really cool graphics to go on t-shirts based on our unsung gem rounds. And I wish Kingpin could be considered an unsung gem so we could get a t-shirt with Bigger and McCracken's
maybe
wild
someday.
hair.
Maybe someday.
Maybe.
Well, this pod is about movies that we haven't seen, so there's a chance I could pick that someday because I have never seen Kingpin.
No wonder you were
That is
quiet there.
Yeah, it's like I have nothing to contribute to this conversation.
Tyler and I were just crying, laughing, and you're just quiet.
It's like us when we get into Lebowski talk, and it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll be right back, guys. Like,
mine are, let's see, Stripes, which was that was a blind watch at one point. Threw it on. I was like, oh, this was really good. He was great. That's super early. Bill Murray too. That was, I mean,
that's his first movie, right?
I think it's like the first. I mean, he did like Where the Buffalo Roam in 80 and Caddyshack, but I think this was his first like real leading role.
Okay. I thought it came before
Stripes.
Caddyshack. That's right.
Yeah, so Meatballs was 79, and then 80 had Where the Buffalo Roam and Caddyshack. But I feel like this was kind of his first, like, let's see what this guy can do. Let's make him a Hollywood icon that you said he would never be.
No. I didn't say that. 1988
that's
version
true.
of The Listener said that.
That's who said that. So yeah, I really liked him in that. I thought that was great. Also great cast. Got John Candy, and I mean, that's all you need to say. So check out Stripes.
I've never seen Stripes.
It's really good.
So now we're even. We're all even.
We're all even. I often try not to have repeats, but sometimes you just can't avoid it. And Life Aquatic, just have to have it on there. Like, I do think it's the ultimate Wes Anderson performance from him. Rushmore is great. I love Rushmore. I mean, that's the name of this whole category. Like, we use that clip from that dinner scene.
Herman Bloom.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't hate Budweiser as a beer. I mean, hate strong. I don't like it because I can't wear their stuff. Otherwise, I would have those shorts. But I can't. I can't support them. I don't actually drink them. So,
so I love Life Aquatic. Kind of a weirder pick, I think. Like some people might think, but I talked about it earlier. It's his role in Little Shop of Horrors. He is like a very small supporting role, but he's hilarious and he's interacting with Steve Martin pretty much in every scene, and they just play off each other so well. So if you haven't seen Little Shop, I recommend it for a ton of reasons, but Bill Murray as like the crazed dentist patient, it's just he does a great job.
Next. It's me, Arthur Denton. I'm next. Nurse.
Does that have an appointment?
Ask it. I'm off duty.
I've been saving all month for this. I think I need a root canal. I'm sure I need a long, slow root canal.
And then probably one of the more obscure ones, I guess. I mean, obscure, it's a huge Disney movie, but him as Baloo in the live action remake of Jungle Book felt like perfect casting.
Yeah.
Those movies have gotten like kind of mixed reviews from people. I think, I mean, Lion King obviously made money and whatever, there's Aladdin and all that kind of stuff, but I actually really liked the Jungle Book one, and Bill Murray is a huge reason behind that. He's just like made to be like, he was perfect for Baloo. And then a quick honorable mention, just having seen it recently, he was really good in The French Dispatch. It's kind of about him, but kind of not, but he's just like, again, it's another Wes Anderson and it's perfect. So yeah, those would be my four though.
Well, I'm glad you gave Jungle Book some shine. I'm mad at that movie because they made Scarlett Johansson be a snake, and that's very conflicting to me. A member of my Rushmore Mountain being
very confusing,
depicted as the least favorite thing on the planet, in my opinion.
That is rough.
That's tough for me. But yeah, it's cool because I thought there was going to be a lot more crossover on these lists. I have Life Aquatic. That's the first one. I mentioned it earlier. That's what I think of outside of Zombieland, but an actual Bill Murray movie. The first one I think of is Life Aquatic. Lost in Translation. I don't know how to fully describe it, but the first time I saw that movie, it's like, there wasn't so much that I was blown away, but I was just like completely transfixed. Yeah. Right. Like there was nothing about it. I mean, of certainly that didn't hurt, but I just, even when I rewatch it, I'm like, I don't even know why I like this movie so much, but I just love it. It's just like the atmosphere of it and the vibe in it. I don't know. I just really like it. Maybe it's because I can relate to the feeling of like traveling and being in hotels. I don't really know what it is, but I don't know. I love Lost in Translation. Ghostbusters, we talked about it. I had a proton pack when I was a kid. I watched the cartoons every day, and as I've gotten older and I've gotten to appreciate the more adult humor of Ghostbusters, and the Goes is putting moves on my girl, like that line is just incredible. And Groundhog Day, which I was actually surprised didn't make anyone else's list. To me, that's like
too much Sonny and Cher.
Yeah,
maybe
way too much.
I don't know, but I feel like Groundhog Day is like the sweet spot of Bill Murray. Like if you have like the grid of like chaotic neutral to chaotic evil, like that whole thing, like he's the middle square in Groundhog Day because he's kind of a little bit of everything, and it's just like
that's
the
well
most.
put.
What's that?
That's well put. He totally is. It's exactly.
I think it's
where
his
he
most
should be placed.
accessible Bill Murray role. You know what I mean? Like he's not doing. I don't know, for whatever reason. He is another example of how he could have played Scrooged earlier Phil Connors, like early in the movie, asshole Phil Connors might have been a better way to play his character in Scrooged. But yeah, that's cool. Bill Murray might be the actor that we've had on that I've seen of all the actors we've talked about in our Rushmores, Bill Murray's IMDb I've filled up the most of. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
I think I articulated that poorly.
What
the
are
worst way possible.
What are the most glaring omissions?
Stripes for sure. Stripes and Meatballs. I've never seen.
Oh yeah, Meatballs.
Going through here, I haven't seen Isle of Dogs or Zombieland Double Tap or French Dispatch or Afterlife. I'm not including A Very Merry Christmas. I'm sorry, Matt. I just continue to dunk on you this episode.
Why are you including it?
That's a good question. I think I'm only including stuff that was like in the theaters. You know what I mean?
Broken Flowers.
I've seen Broken Flowers. It's great. Garfield.
Weird.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of his movies. I saw Wild Things, but not because of Bill Murray.
Saw it because of Mike Rushmore.
Just the cover. Just the cover.
But yeah, I don't know. That was a cool one. I'm glad that we finally got to do the Bill Murray Rushmore. Greydon, before we get out of here, let the people know where they can find you again, find your music. An email they can ask for like advice or tips, holiday cooking tips for the upcoming holidays. Ways to deal with your neighbor's smoke alarm going off.
It's been resolved.
Nice.
Text is the best. Text will be taken care of. But no, yeah, if you want to hear more of semi-similar versions of the theme song, Spotify and Apple Music, Umbels, Umbels. Also coming at you soon with the cooking channel. Just stay posted.
I would love if you actually did that. I would feel so powerful that I just spoke your cooking channel into existence. That'd make me feel very good about myself. Well, for those of you listening, for those of you watching on YouTube, thank you again so much for joining us. We might not have enjoyed the movie that much, but we certainly enjoyed talking about it, and we certainly enjoyed having you along for the ride. Check us out at 3filmspod on all the socials, 3filmspod.com for merch and Patreon support options. And until next time, it's 3 Films and a Podcast signing off. See you later.
Bah humbug.
Out there. Come on. You don't know the words. Come on. Come on, let's hear it from this side of the theater. Come on, just over here. All right, that's still good. Come on, let's try the other side of the theater. Come on. All right, how about just the men? Come on, just the men. All right, the real men. Let's hear the real men.